Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk, Free for All Friday. Talk about anything you want to talk about. We'll take phone calls throughout this hour. 888-589-8840 is the number to call if you would like to join the conversation. 888-589-8840. Now, let's grab clip number 2 if we can. Rob, we'll start kind of right at the top here. And by the way, you know, Rob reminded me on the break that we do have gun control in the United States right now. You buy a new gun, you have to go through a background check. That's gun control. That gun is registered. They know who bought it. They got a name, they got an address, and they do a background check. If you've got a police record, I don't exactly know what the threshold is, but I'm assuming virtually any sort of police record that would have any connection with drugs or violent crime or whatever is going to disqualify you from being able to buy a gun. We have gun control right now in the United States. Now, of course, it doesn't control private sales. Sale from one private party to another, that's not tracked, and that's where the risk obviously is. If you don't let law-abiding citizens have guns, then only the people that aren't willing to submit to a background check, they're going to be the only ones with a gun. Now, let's play a couple of sound bites from this debacle we have going on right now in D.C. Over budget and all that kind of stuff. Now, this I don't understand. This is Charles Krauthammer, and Charles Krauthammer is got some qualified praise for John Boehner and for Paul Ryan, and I don't even get any one part of this. You know, we did a poll here, AFA. In fact, we found out that Speaker Boehner's office is not happy with us for this email that we sent out, but we sent an email out to our entire Action Alert network, and if you didn't get one, go sign up for Action Alerts at afa.net. You can go there and call up this Action Alert so you can vote, because it was we took a poll. You know, here Speaker Boehner and Paul Ryan voted for it, along with 83 other Republicans. Raises taxes by $620 billion. It has no spending cuts, and it increases the deficit by $3.9 trillion. So we asked the people on the part of the AFA network, do you support or not? 94 to 6 if you round it up. 94% do not approve of what Speaker Boehner and Paul Ryan did. Do not approve of that. $620 billion tax increase, $3.9 trillion increase in the national debt, and zero, nada, zip spending cuts. That's what makes what Charles Krauthammer says right here a little bit hard to understand. Let's listen.
When they took the vote on January the 1st to approve the fiscal cliff deal, it was already, technically, taxes had already been raised. So it was over. The fight was over. If they had done nothing, you would have had the taxes going up on everybody. You would have had the blame on Republicans. And I would actually commend Boehner and Paul Ryan, who in the end voted yes for a bad deal, but they had to do it, for some courage, knowing it was a deal that was really awful, but there was no alternative, and being in the leadership, taking a hit rather than letting somebody in the back benches have to do it for them. But they have to be united from now on. Once they split, as happened right now, all power will devolve to the president and the Senate and Pelosi, and they will be irrelevant.
You know, there's a couple of things I take issue with. Number one, Charles Krauthammer said there was no alternative. That's absolutely not true. Of course there was an alternative. Don't give in. That's always an alternative. Stand your ground. Say we're not going to raise taxes on anybody. That's the worst possible thing we can do with the economy in a slump, and we're heading into a recession, by the way. We're not in recovery anymore. We're probably already in a recession. Economy shrinking. And so the Republicans could have said, look, we are not going to raise taxes on anybody. That is a bad idea. It's bad for America. It's bad for people that are looking for jobs because you're taking money away from job creators. We are not going to do it. It's a bad idea for America. We're not going to do it. And we're just going to chase that money overseas. I mean, look what's happened in France. The richest actor in France, he's become a citizen of Russia. Did you see that yesterday? Gerard Depardieu. He got citizenship in Russia. He's a Russian citizen. He's turned his back on France. He's gone. He's out of there because they wanted to raise his taxes to 75%. The richest businessman in France is living in Belgium. So you raise taxes on the job creators, they just leave. They take them and they take their money with them. Gone. Out of here. You've got none of their money you can tax anymore because they're not even around. California is finding this out. They jacked taxes up on the upper income in California, and their tax receipts went down. They just got done raising taxes on them, and their tax receipts went down by $1 billion. Why? Because the people left. They don't want to sit around in California and pay those kind of taxes when they can go to places like Texas. They can go to North Dakota. They can go to places like Florida where there's no income tax. So it's just dumb. I mean, politically, economically, it is stupid. It is moronic to raise taxes on the job creators. So there was an alternative. Hold your ground. Don't surrender. Don't capitulate. And then Krauthammer actually praises them for courage. I see no courage in this whatsoever. I see capitulation. I see surrender. I see craven capitulation. They're not proud of what they did. If they'd done something courageous, they would have had the boldness to go in front of the cameras and defend what they did. They won't do it. You couldn't find John Boehner after that vote. He went to some hidey hole somewhere. Paul Ryan wouldn't talk to the media about it. Those guys were looking for some place to hide. There's no courage here. It was just craven capitulation and surrender. Well, let's go to the phones. Let's go to John in Delphi, Indiana. John, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Brian. Since this is open mic Friday, first of all, I'd like to thank you for your input and your radio show. Number one, I'd like to say that here not long ago in Indiana, there was a man that was had received a lesser sentence through a plea bargaining for murdering, excuse me, his mother or grandmother, and he served 17 years. And when he got out of prison, he moved in with his sister and eventually killed her. Then went out and killed 2 police officers and 2 firemen after he had set fire to 2 homes and waited in ambush to kill those public servants. That one thing should be on the conscience of all those that do plea bargaining. My idea is that we should get back to do the crime, do the time.
Yeah. Well, and I agree with you. You know, and it's a tragic thing, John, when that happens, and everybody thinks it's compassionate not to take the lives of murderers. That in fact, that's where the term penitentiary comes from. When we're going to punish these people, we're going to send them someplace where they could reflect on their sins and they could become penitents. They could repent of their sins and connect with God. So it was all about this compassion. And I remember taking a class in criminal law at Stanford, and the law professor, one of the most noted law professors in America, he said, look, the problem with using prison as a rehab center, it doesn't work. This is 1971. It doesn't work. And he wasn't even a Christian. It just doesn't work. People don't get rehabbed there. And you look at a guy that commits murder. Now, I'm not saying we have the death penalty for every crime. Don't misunderstand me. But when somebody takes a human life without just cause, biblically and morally, I believe that individual should pay for that with his own life. He should forfeit his own life. He shouldn't be given 25 years or 17 years or whatever. He should forfeit his life. That's what justice dictates. And then what happens, like you say, in this case, he gets out, he murders, 3 or 4 or 5 other people? So yes. I say, well, where's the compassion for them? How is that compassionate for these additional innocent victims? This guy should not even be around to murder additional people if justice had been done in the first place. So justice, ladies and gentlemen, is compassion for victims.